What will the ripple effects of Noah Dobson's injury be for the Islanders? And if the Islanders do trade Brock Nelson, what can they expect in return? We've got all that and a lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, it's a crossroads time for the New York Islanders right now, both on the ice and sort of for the future of the team. In the short term, we'll start with that. Noah Dobson injured in that Monday game against Ottawa, and we still do not have a timetable for how long Dobson is going to be out. The Islanders did not update anybody on Wednesday as to anything specific about the injury. And look, that's the Islanders' MO. I am not at all surprised by that. Yet, here's the thing. It's based on what we saw, he's missing some time. And, everydayers yesterday on the show, we said that, we quoted a doctor who watched it and said, most likely we're looking at 4 to 6 weeks. Again, that's speculation. That person, the doctor, did not evaluate Noah Dobson in person, but let's assume he's going to miss a decent amount of time, a couple of weeks minimum. How is that injury going to affect the Islanders? What is the ripple effect? Well, the first and most obvious thing is that you need somebody in the lineup to replace Noah Dobson. And the next man up on the Islanders depth chart is Dennis Cholowski. And Cholowski is, to me, he's played 28 games so far. He's got 3 goals, 8 points. He is a +1 on an Islanders team that tends to, has a negative goal differential on the season. So despite his lack of extensive NHL experience, Dennis Cholowski has, stepped in and done an admirable job for the New York Islanders when he's been called upon. And look, between the injuries so far this year to Alexander Romanov and, all the different defensemen, Mike Riley, who have been, guys who have been out of the lineup, Adam Pelech, they've needed many defensemen to step up and provide depth, and Cholowski has done that. The difference, however, or one major difference, is how many minutes can we expect Cholowski to play? And, thus far this year, in the games that Cholowski has played, he's averaged 13 minutes and 40 seconds of ice time. And without a doubt, we're going to need to see a lot more from him ice time wise. His ice time is going to go from 12, 13, 14 minutes to somewhere between 18 and 22 minutes, maybe even more. I expect Cholowski to take over on the first power play unit. I expect that he will get, more ice time than what he's dealt with in recent years. Now, Cholowski is a left shot, and, you've got Pelech and Romanov also on as left shots, as is Isaiah George. So, again, one of these guys is going to have to play the right side. You still have Ryan Pollock and Scott Mayfield, who can play on the right side. And then the expected move that the Islanders would make at this point is Grant Hutton to be called up. He is a right shot defenseman, and he'll give you some depth if another injury occurs or if somebody isn't playing well or gets an illness or whatever the case may be. So that Cholowski will get a lot more ice time. The other thing, though, is a concern. And people who have been watching this team in recent years will understand this concern. You don't want the defenseman on the New York Islanders to try to do too much offensively. And I know Patrick Waugh wanted his defenseman to shoot more, and in general, that's fine. But the Islanders get into trouble when their defensemen take too many risks. We saw that a little bit under Lane Lambert before he got fired. And the Islanders need to be able to be a defense-first team. This team, especially without Noah Dobson, is not built to win games 6-4 or 7-5. They are going to score 2, 3, 4 goals on most nights and try to beat you that way. So the most important thing that the Islanders defensemen can do is not try to do too much offensively. You want to step it up a little bit. You want to try to, maybe shoot the puck a little bit more. But as far as taking chances, gambling, pinching, you want to do things smart first and then figure out, when you can try to do a little more offensively. The priority has to be that you cannot make up for the loss of Noah Dobson by having Isaiah George or Ryan Polak or Alexander Romanov or Scott Mayfield suddenly think that they're the next Bobby Orr, Paul Coffey, or Dennis Potvin. That isn't going to work. These guys need to still play their game and not worry about trying to replace the productivity of a Noah Dobson, because you know what? They are not Noah Dobson. They don't have the offensive skills that Noah Dobson possesses. And as a result, they have to play within themselves and not try to do too much. When you try to do too much, that's when you turn the puck over. And Islander fans, you guys have seen this as much as anybody. You don't want to turn the puck over. You don't want to force the play. You want to play smart and you want to play defense first, because you got to win 3-2, not 6-5. And we need to see that. So be smart. Pick your spots and get the job done efficiently. That is another thing. Obviously, however, you have a situation where the trust level is still not as great for guys like Isaiah George, guys like Dennis Cholowski, guys like Grant Hutton. And, maybe if they play well, they can build a little more trust, but those guys are not going to play 25, 26, 27 minutes. And Patrick Waugh is going to lean more on the Romanovs, the Mayfields, the Pellics, the Polaks. Their minutes are going to go up. And again, you got to walk that line. You want their minutes to go up, but you can't tire them out. We remember what happened to Noah Dobson late in the season last year. Because of injuries on the blue line, he went through some stretches where he was playing 28, 30 minutes a game. And by the last 10 games of the regular season, he hit a wall. And his productivity for the last 10 regular season games and into the playoffs was just simply not there. You can't afford that if you're the New York Islanders. Your defense, your top 4 defensemen right now need to not wear themselves down. This team has already struggled in the third period over the course of the year. They've gotten a little bit better lately, but you can't wear your top guys out. So Pellick and Polak, Romanov, Mayfield, those guys are going to see the most ice time. Isaiah George and Chalowski will get a bump, but overall, you've got to watch that time. So you got to find that sweet spot where, yes, I am not as trustworthy of the rookie Isaiah George, even though he's been solid, and Dennis Chalowski to play in big minutes or a lot of minutes, but you can't wear down the other four guys. You just cannot do that. It hurts the long-term health of your team. So Patrick Waugh has some work to do. He has to figure out that sweet spot between overworking the defenseman and also, getting enough play out of them so that they're not worn down, but they still provide solid defensive play. And one other thing, and I'm going to say this maybe with a light touch, let's say. The forwards are going to have to be a little bit more cognizant and aware of the need to play in their own zone, to play, to back check, to pick up their man, to play defense, to take a little bit more of the burden off of even the top four defensemen who are going to be playing more minutes, and George and Chalowski who are going to play more minutes and have a bigger role than they normally have. You can't leave those guys out to dry. You can't do that. When you have a chance to clear the zone, you do it. When you have to back check and pick up your man so they don't have too much time and space, you do it. And team-wide, stay out of the penalty box. Now, the power play will also be affected, and we have to figure that out. I think it'll be Chalowski. I think George may see some time on the power play. Maybe Pelech or Polak will see some time on the power play. But to me, Noah Dobson does not have great vision and hockey sense when it comes to quarterbacking the power play or even clearing the zone. The power play, even though it will miss the passing and the skating of Noah Dobson, it could in some ways benefit from not having Dobson be the power play quarterback. So we'll keep an eye on that in the next few games. All right, we have got a lot more to discuss. The Brock Nelson trade rumors continue to heat up, but what exactly can the New York Islanders expect in a trade for Brock Nelson or some of their other players who are available? We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about rookie Marc Gatcomb, who has played 3 games now for the Islanders. What has he brought to the system? And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a defenseman who spent part of the 2005-2006 season with the Islanders. He also played for the Rangers and the Devils very briefly. So someone who played for all 3 New York area teams. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. And Islander fans, use your knowledge of hockey and the Islanders for some exciting opportunities on FanDuel. Check out the odds for Friday's game against the Flyers. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So again, the trade talk heats up. The trade deadline, the NHL trade deadline is about 6 weeks away. But keep in mind that we do have that 10-day break for the Four Nations tournament, which is replacing the All-Star game this year. So there's going to be this time period where we're not going to see any games being played. So, yeah, there's 6 weeks roughly left, but only 4.5 weeks worth of actual games between now and the trade deadline. And Brock Nelson has been discussed as the most likely player to be traded. He would be in a lot of demand at the trade deadline. Number one, he has an expiring contract. Number two, he has already expressed, or his agent has already expressed, the desire to test the free agent market over the summer. And that makes sense. Brock Nelson is 33. This is his last chance to sign a big, long-term, lucrative contract at, high market value. After this, yeah, he may sign a 1 or 2 year deal, but it'll be one of those, yeah, we could use this veteran and we're going to pay him not the league minimum, but he's not getting top of market value anymore. So all of these things sort of come together to say that Nelson is probably the most likely player to get traded. The one thing that New York Islanders general manager Lou Lamoriello cannot do with Brock Nelson is have the same thing that happened with John Tavares happen again. Can't let Brock Nelson leave as a free agent and the Islanders get nothing in return. Now, Frank Saravalli of the Daily Faceoff believes the Islanders can get back something very close to or similar to what they gave up when they acquired Bo Horvat from the Vancouver Canucks a couple of years ago. So what did the Islanders give up? Well, when they got Horvat, they gave up their first-round pick in 2023. They gave up Anthony Beauvillier, who was essentially a middle six forward. And they gave up the number one prospect in their pool in Aatu Räty. So what happens if the Islanders are on the receiving end? Obviously, a first-round pick would make sense. A roster player to take the place of Brock Nelson is a necessity because, let's face it, you can't fill in. The Islanders do not have right now in Bridgeport guys who are ready to take on a top six role on this team. They just don't have it because, your Liam Foodies and your Eric Karlstroms and, the Alex Jeffries, none of those guys are right now top six forwards in the NHL. So having them try to take that role is just not going to work. So we will see that you're going to need at least a middle six forward to be a placeholder, much like Beauvillier was when the Islanders traded him to Vancouver. He lasted the rest of the season that he was traded on, and then October, and then in November of the following year, he was gone in another trade. So you need a placeholder at the very least, and then if you can get a prospect and a pick in addition to the placeholder, that's how you retool this team. And, if you can play off the shortage of centers who are available. And here's the thing about Brock Nelson. He is experienced, but not yet old at 33. He has playoff experience. He can play in a pinch on first line, second line, or the third line. He is a natural center, but he can also play the wing and play it well. He is a leader. He is experienced. He's gone on 2 runs to the Stanley Cup semifinals or the conference finals, depending on how you view the bubble year. He gives you a guy who, even though he's not producing at that level right now this season, has had back-to-back 30-plus goal seasons. He is going to be one of the most, if not the most attractive guy. And here's the thing. If you want him as a rental, that's an option. If you want to try to negotiate an extension with him beforehand, I'm pretty sure that Lou Lamoriello would allow, and Nelson and his agent would allow some teams to negotiate that. And that gives the buyers some flexibility. And you know what? The Islanders could even sweeten the pot a little bit if they retain some salary, because his contract is up at the end of this year. So if you retain even half of the remaining salary for Brock Nelson for the rest of this season, that all comes off the books at the end of the year. You're talking about, March, most of March and half of April that you have to retain some of that salary, and that could even increase your haul, what you get back in this trade even more, because it makes it easier for more teams to compete, for more, for that team to add somebody under the cap, like the Capitals. One of the teams, everydayers, we mentioned yesterday that the Capitals are interested. The Capitals don't have a lot of cap space, but if the Islanders retain, the Capitals may sweeten the deal with another prospect who maybe they wouldn't do if you didn't retain. It's all out there for the taking. The question is, will Lou Lamoriello, who has been reluctant to retool, make the move at all? I don't think extending Brock Nelson is the best thing for this team long term. You're at a crossroads for this team, as I mentioned earlier. So, you've got Kyle Palmieri, Brock Nelson, Anders Lee, J.G. Pageau. Pageau and Lee, their contracts are up after next season. Palmieri and Nelson, their contracts are up after this season. These are guys you can move now and really accumulate picks, prospects, younger players, and help speed up this retool and prevent it from becoming one of those 4, 5, 6-year rebuilds like what we've seen in Anaheim, San Jose, or Chicago. So here's your chance. But if you lose these guys for nothing, that chance disappears. We'll see what Lou Lamoriello does, and we'll have it covered for you every step of the way right here on the Locked On Islanders podcast. We've got more to get to on today's show. We're going to talk a little bit about rookie Marc Gatcomb, who's played 3 games now for the Islanders. What impact has he had, and what does he represent? We'll also have our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement were unforgettable. Well, now Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One of my other favorite features on Game Time is the view from your seat. You go on the app and you can get a panoramic view from your seat before you purchase the tickets, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from our hosts, Steele and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Marc Gatcomb. He just joined the Islanders, was called up for the game against Ottawa on January 14th. Happened when some illness went through the locker room. J.G. Pageau, unavailable. Gatcomb ends up coming up and playing. And he's now been in 3 games. He doesn't have a point yet. He's a -1. He's, averaging about 8.5, 9 minutes a game. It doesn't seem like Gatcomb is a major game changer. And I'm not calling him the next star. I'm not even saying that this 25-year-old is going to rise up and become even a middle 6 player. He might, but right now, I'll tell you what he is doing. He is adding some energy and some juice to this lineup. He has 4 shots on goal in those 3 games. He is hitting like crazy. In 3 games, he has 19 hits, 1 block shot. And when you consider he's playing 8.5 minutes a game, to have 19 hits, an average of more than 6 per game, he is going out there and setting the tone. And let's face it, the Islanders' 4th line this year has struggled mightily and has not been productive offensively. They haven't been very physical, and they haven't been offensively productive. Matt Martin has 1 assist and no goals in 24 games. Okay? Kyle McLean has 2 goals and 5 assists in 46 games. He's a -9. Pierre Engvall, 3 goals, 7 assists in 31 games. He's a -5. Your Casey Cizikas, 4 goals, 5 points, only 1 assist in 46 games. He's a -14. These are the guys who have been playing. Oh, Hudson Fasching, 19 games, no points, -6. These are the guys who have been on your 4th line. And suffice it to say, with the exception of Matt Martin, they haven't been overly physical. They haven't been great defensively, and they haven't been producing almost anything offensively. Gatcomb, his enthusiasm and his physicality harken back to the identity line days and gives this team a jolt of energy. And let's face it, Islander fans, we've been saying on this show for a long time, everydayers know this. This team needs to get younger, faster, and more skilled. Gatcomb is younger and faster. He may not be, a highly skilled player, but he'll bring some energy, bring some juice, and it's not surprising that the Islanders, in the 3 games that we have seen Marc Gatcomb play, have won 2 of them because he helps energize this team a little bit, and that is a very positive development. Again, he is not the solution to this team's long-term problems. He could be a solid role player, but at least he's bringing a little jolt of energy and physicality that this team badly needs. Yes, it's a small sample size. Yes, he's probably still excited because he's in the NHL, first 3 games of his career in the NHL, but so far, so good, and I'm glad to see what we're getting from Marc Gatcomb. Time for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 51st birthday of former Islanders defenseman Joel Bouchard. The Montreal native, a 6th-round pick of the Flames in 1992, 6'1", 209 pounds, made his NHL debut with Calgary in 94-95, later played for the Predators, the Stars, the Coyotes, 1 game for the Devils in 2001-2002, played for the Rangers, the Penguins, the Rangers again, and then closed out his NHL career playing 25 games for the Islanders in 05-06, had a goal, 9 points, and 23 penalty minutes. Bouchard played in 364 career NHL games, 22 goals, 75 points, and 264 penalty minutes. Never appeared in a playoff game. His best game as an Islander is easy, but it wasn't a winning effort. March 6, 2006, Islanders visiting the Washington Capitals in Washington, D.C. Garth Snow, the Islanders goalie, Olaf Kolzig, the goalie for the Caps. And in this game, after Alex Ovechkin made it 1-0 Washington, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Joel Bouchard helped set up Aaron Asham for the tying goal, Lexi Yashin with the other assist. And then with the Islanders down 3-1 early in the third period, Joel Bouchard scored his only goal as an Islander and what would be his last career NHL goal. Mike York and Brad Lukowich with the helpers at 1:13 of the third. Islanders lose this one 5-2, but for Joel Bouchard, our Islanders' birthday of the day, he had a goal, he had an assist, and he had 7 shots on goal in just 19 minutes and 54 seconds. So Joel Bouchard, a player who played for all 3 New York metropolitan area teams during his NHL career, he is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, we're back tomorrow. Make sure you join us. We will have the latest injury updates. Plus, we will have a full preview of Friday night's game against the Philadelphia Flyers. That is a huge game for the Islanders if they hope to get back into the wild cards race. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Until tomorrow, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.